Imagine watching an interview where every claim goes unchallenged. And look, I know they don't pretend to be balanced and they are very biased, but what it really does is leave you wondering, are we actually getting the full story? No tough questions, no fact checks, just a cosy chat about ripping up human rights, wasting millions, and pretending France is the problem. You're not crazy, they just don't think you're paying attention. But we are, and we do have the receipts. Okay, so to bring you up to speed, the UK and France have agreed on a one in, one out migration deal to address illegal channel crossings. Under the pilot scheme, the UK will return migrants arriving by small boats to France. In exchange, France will allow the equivalent number of migrants with family ties to the UK to apply for asylum through a safe online platform. In theory, it creates a safer, more controlled route for people who genuinely qualify. The idea is by providing a legal, safe alternative, it will reduce the number of risky channel crossings. But whether it actually works or if it's even fair is still up for debate. Yet in this interview, you're not going to find that. Not at all. We start off with the host immediately undermining the deal.
And this deal, frankly, will make no difference whatsoever.
So why are they calling it one in, one out? Do you understand that?
Well, they're calling it one in, one out because for every migrant that the UK send back to France, France will send one in the other direction who can stay in the UK. So it's one in, one out in that sense. But when you look at it in terms of what proportion of the illegal immigrants coming in get returned, it's only 1 in 17. And if you've got a 16 out of 17 chance, 94% chance of staying in the UK, if you cross the channel on a small boat, 94% chance, most people are going to take that. So it won't have any deterrent effect at all. It's not going to work.
See, and this is the first lie. Part of the deal is that you have a legitimate claim. You're not going to risk the dangerous crossing because doing so automatically forfeits your chance to stay. You can't just use a safe route if you've already tried to cross by boat. And it's not going to stop the ones who don't have a claim. But I'd imagine it'll drastically reduce the number of coming across. And the ones that don't have a valid claim do actually get deported.
Are the French taking the Michael, or maybe I should say taking the Michel? Because we've given them £500 million. I'm not sure what we've got in return.
Yeah, well, I think the French should be doing a lot more, frankly, to stop the migrants on the beaches. And then they should also, in my view, be intercepting boats at sea as well, not just in 300 metres of water, but frankly, anywhere. They could, I think, stop this entirely if they wanted to by doing that. Now, their neighbours in Belgium have done this. They are doing a much better job at intercepting on the beaches.
Ah yes, Belgium comparison. Classic. Never mind that Belgium has a 65-kilometre coastline and France is over 5 times that, or that France is dealing with the entire European bottleneck of migration. But, according to Philp, France could just stop it if they wanted to. Sure mate, yeah, they're just choosing not to for fun, I guess. And the absolute cheek of Camilla Tomney. How can she call herself a journalist? She challenges for giving France 500 million for a pilot scheme that might actually reduce the crossings, yet says nothing, not a single word about the 700 million the Tories handed to Rwanda for literally 0 returns. Oh no, wait, sorry, there were 4 volunteers who was each paid an extra $3,000 to go. Unbelievable.
What would you do if you were Home Secretary to get these numbers down?
Well, we would introduce a 100% removals deterrent, meaning that not just 6%, but 100% of illegal immigrants arriving over the channel would get removed without judicial process, no appeals, no activist judges, none of that nonsense, would get removed either straight back to their home country, if safe, or to a third country, such as Rwanda, but it doesn't really matter where, immediately.
And here's the next lie. You didn't. The Tories have talked tough before. Remember the Nationalities and Borders Bill or the famous Rwanda plan. All these were sold as game changers. And what do we get? Minimal results, no deterrent and a list of broken promises. They struggled to deport anyone and now they want you to believe they'll deport everyone immediately. Because, yeah, of course you will. And you have to love this bit.
Now, we had that ready to go just after the election. If you remember, there were a number of court challenges. You asked why it wasn't done. There were a number of court challenges, the Strasbourg Court in June 2022, then the Supreme Court in, I think it was October 2023. We passed a law called the Safety of Rwanda Act to basically give the government the legal power and override the courts, prevent the courts from interfering. But then the early election happened, unfortunately.
Notice the 0 pushback from the host, by the way. Their plan was all set to go, and then tragically, an election got in the way. You know, the election that they actually called.
The first plane to Rwanda was due to take off, I think it was on July the 24th last year, about 3 weeks after the election, but Starmer cancelled it just before it was due to take off.
Apparently, they had everything in place. A law to override the Supreme Court, a law that would break international law, and just as the first plane to Rwanda was meant to take off, whoops, Starmer wins. How dare he agree with the Supreme Court that Rwanda isn't safe, and that deporting people before processing their claim breaks a refugee convention. And here's where it goes full bananas.
We've got to have our own solution, and that's what the Rwanda deterrent would have been. And we would reintroduce that immediately if re-elected.
Leaving the refugee convention, yes or no?
Yes, that is
Okay.
everything's on the table.
All right.
And including clarifying in domestic law how those obligations should be interpreted.
Considering tearing up the Human Rights Act.
I'd tell you more than that. We've already said we would repeal the Human Rights Act,
Right.
tear it up in relation to immigration matters. And in fact, I forced that to a vote in Parliament just a few weeks ago, but Labour unfortunately voted against it. So as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to immigration matters, the Human Rights Act has to go.
Okay. And then leave the ECHR.
Yes, under active consideration. It's being looked at by Lord Wolfson, a very eminent KC, senior barrister at the moment. He's going to report back by party conference, and we'll have more to say then. So that is under active and careful consideration.
Leave the Refugee Convention, rip up the Human Rights Act, exit the European Court of Human Rights. Philp says everything's on the table, which is political speak for, yeah, we don't know what we're doing, but it sounds tough. Also, funny how they don't ask how this would affect the Good Friday Agreement or the international obligations. But hey, he name-dropped a KC, so I guess that makes it legal, right? The Tories simply haven't got a clue what on earth they're doing. In this interview that we've just watched, they're praising policies that were utter failures. Well, on the video on screen now, you can see them arguing against the very policies they put in place that are actually working. Absolute madness. So go watch that next. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.